Professor Jonathan Turley of George Washington University has been on TV a lot on this issue. He's a sharp mind and a steady hand who's not a conservative, but knows the Constitution and knows, I should say not a dogmatic conservative, actually don't even know his politics, but knows these issues quite well. He also recognizes that we are in an unprecedented era of true assaults on free speech. We are in a period here where there is more at stake for free speech than at any time, certainly in my memory. And you could go back even to the earliest days of the Republic. I mean, one of the things that I think people should have we should all have a little bit more of a grasp on and should, I don't know if saying it should be taught more in schools, but everybody should be aware that even the Founding Fathers sometimes lost their way on free speech issues. The Alien and Sedition Acts were passed, which did criminalize the publications of newspapers on political issues. It was, of course, under the guise of it's helping an enemy, it's helping in sedition against the country. But if you go back to, what was it, 1802, I think it was, the Alien and Sedition Acts, there were people who were a very small number, I think it was only a handful, but who were prosecuted under it. And Jonathan Turley's pointing out that President Biden right now, you can argue, is among the most anti-free speech presidents since, well, go all the way back to John Adams.
She is pitch perfect for the Biden administration. I mean, President Biden, I've said before, is arguably the most anti-free speech president since John Adams. I mean, the record of this administration is chilling. And they went out and found this individual who has been a huge advocate for corporate and public censorship, has a distinctly anti-free speech view. And that's what's so troubling when the secretary says, well, she has a long background here. Well, it's the wrong background. It's like saying a book burner has a background in literacy. Yeah, he works with books, but that's not the background you're looking for.
So as 1798, sorry, when you go for a memory on these things occasionally, I'll be a couple of years off. 1798, the Alien and Sedition Acts, and it did prohibit effectively opposition to important government policies in the press. So there had to be fights over this. Now that we moved away from that, but there was a law passed here that was in clear violation of the First Amendment. This is another way of pointing out all of this is a constant fight, a constant change. The debates, the arguments around these issues, this notion of, oh, it's settled. They actually dealt with stare decisis in the opinion, the leaked opinion, to say, yeah, it's stare decisis until it's not. It's stare decisis until you get a decision that, well, Brown v. Board was the correct decision, ending the separate but equal doctrine of a Supreme Court decision before that, right? But the point being, there will be times when it is necessary, moral, and the right legal thing to do from a constitutional perspective to say, yeah, the previous court got it wrong. And there have clearly been Korematsu, Dred Scott. There are plenty of times where the Supreme Court has gotten it wrong in the past. And right now what we see, I think, is a Supreme Court that is, well, on the right side, dare I say, on the right side of history. And on the First Amendment issues that I think are likely to come before this court, especially as the government is more than ever under the Biden administration of the mindset that they should be regulating speech. They should be telling people what they can say and can't say. I mean, we got a disinformation czar. Soviet Mary Poppins running around singing, talking about how you can't say this and you can't say that unless you want to be part of the disinformation. I was thinking about singing that, but I didn't want all of you to stop listening, so I saved you from my singing. But this is a problem, folks. This is a problem. And as the left starts to lose more, and they're going to be losing more, Roe is just one of many places where they have lost ground and are being dealt serious setbacks to the progressive agenda. They're going to try to use the government. They're going to try to weaponize bureaucracy and use the levers of power at their disposal to crush dissent, to shut down the other side of the debate and argument on all these issues, because they're not going to win on the actual merits. They never won on the merits of Roe. They just had people that wanted it to be the law, so they pretended it was the law. And now they recognize that there'll be much more widespread discussion about abortion. There'll be much more legislation that will come. I know, assuming that the 5-4 decision comes down as we expect. But that will change our whole national conversation about it. So they're going to try to control the conversation in whatever ways that they can. And I mean control as in who gets to speak, where you get to speak, what is elevated, what is suppressed, who is canceled, what is censored. And I mean censored even by the government, which is why this discussion of the, I keep trying to remember the Disinformation Governance Board. And, you know, it's Orwell read, it's 1984 read as a handbook, as a how-to guide. That seems to be what the Democrats have come up with. When Jen Psaki was even asked about this, she refused to say that the Disinformation Board will refrain from rooting out what they believe to be, censoring what they believe to be disinformation.
Does he want the people on this board to start censoring information that is not helpful to him?
Well, let me be clear on exactly what this board does, or what the work they are doing does. The primary mission is to establish best practices to ensure that efforts to understand and respond to disinformation are done in ways that protect privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties, and the right to free speech.
Okay, there's this woman, Nina Jankowicz, who is going to be in charge of the board. She has said that she thinks the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation. So should we look forward in the future to her censoring internet traffic about the Hunter Biden laptop?
I think I noted exactly what the objective of the board is.
How about just say, yeah, this is a bad idea and we should have just never even thought about this? Well, they won't, because then they would be giving up the possibility of using this for political power, and that's ultimately what they want. They're going to use the government, they're going to use the bureaucracy, and they're also going to use the cultural power that they have gathered over time. The right is waking up to all this. Finally, conservatives are starting to see that, for one thing, the neutral space that we wanted to achieve, we were told we should be trying to achieve in teaching and what our children are learning, it's not a neutral space. If you allow it to be a vacuum, the left will fill it with propaganda. If you don't pay attention to it, that's what happens. They turn the schools, even they turn the preschools, into indoctrination factories. As obtuse as that may be, that is what they do. That has been what they've been doing. But beyond that, they're also looking to destroy any voices that are effective in making the case on the other side. And here, for example, is, because I'm still, I don't think the New York Times really has any credibility, but there's a part of me that thinks at least they should. Are they even trying to keep up the pretense that they are a newspaper instead of a party organ for the Democrats and for the left? I think the pretense has essentially fallen away entirely. Not that they would ever fool me or you with it, but they usually go through those motions that create an intellectual, a journo fig leaf, if you will. And it feels like they've dropped that